Hello, everyone. Welcome to 2L Pucks Hockey Chat. This is the December 29th edition, the last edition of 2019, and last edition of the decade. So, very momentous occasion here. And to, I guess, kind of commemorate this episode and to commemorate the decade, we're going to have a couple segments on the worst teams of the decade and best teams of the decade, and some various other current news. So I think if Scotty, you're okay with it, I'll lead off with the first one.
Yeah, actually, I forgot. I do want to give one quick shout out, 10 seconds. Yesterday, Stan Lee would have been 97 years old. So I want to give a shout out to Stan Lee and thank him for all of the wonderful enjoyment we got throughout the years in the comics and finally with the movie. So would have been 97 years old. So, yeah. All right. That's all I got for that. Thanks.
Well, that's a good shout out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so first first topic I'd like to touch on would be the worst teams of the decade. Now, we could obviously go through it a little bit. I kind of pulled out what I would consider to maybe be, because you could spend a lot of time discussing this. So I'm just going to pick one. Okay,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to go. And by looking over this for quite a bit, I think I'm going to have to go with the 2016-2017 season for the Colorado Avalanche.
Okay.
It's still kind of fresh in some of our minds. Some of us may remember it pretty well. They went 22-56-4 with a .293 points percentage. Some of the highlights of this team, they ranked last overall in both offense and defense, and they finished with a minus, I believe, minus 112 goal differential. And the crazy thing about that season was Nathan MacKinnon was on that team, and nobody else was. No, I'm kidding. Nathan MacKinnon was on that team, and now look at them. I remember watching that and wondering what the heck is going on there. Scotty, I mean, jump in here. Some of your thoughts. I remember going through that season and feeling bad for Nate MacKinnon, first of all. And it
Well,
seemed very early in the season when the media started getting on the Colorado Avalanche. And then I remember there seemed to be absolutely no reprieve. They just got hammered for the entire season, both on the ice and in the media. Um,
so
I would have to go with that as the worst team of the decade.
yeah, I mean, you're talking, 2016-2017 season. So what was interesting was Patrick Waugh quit right before the season started.
Right.
And so that was interesting. Waugh was the coach there for 3 years, had 130 wins in 3 seasons. And then he quit. And, there was, I think it was right around August, which, isn't, it's not, really the best, the best time for a coach to quit,
Right.
especially, you get training camp and everything like that. By that time, your coach and your GM should be on the same page with, strategies and players that the GM is going to give the coach to play with. So, what's interesting was Colorado won the Central Division title with a record-tying 112 points, and Waugh won the Jack Adams as Coach of the Year in 2013-2014. And then in his last season, they were 39-39-4, made it to the wild card. They were 5 points behind the second wild card, so they didn't make it in the playoffs. So, I really do think, they kind of lost their way once Waugh quit, which was to be expected. As you mentioned, they signed, or they had Nathan MacKinnon, who was a restricted free agent that year prior to that season. and they basically signed him and Tyson Berry, and that was pretty much it. And they were at the salary cap. They were at the top, so really couldn't do much. And they just fell apart after doing so well. So yeah, it was definitely a surprise. So yeah, I can definitely see that as the worst team of the decade. Yeah, I mean, so I kind of looked at worst team, and really what stuck out to me were the Buffalo Sabres. We can pick any number of seasons for Buffalo. Sure. And so, I kind of looked at not so much, the worst team, I guess, more in line with the worst franchise, and kind of go with that with my best of the decade. So I look at the Sabres. You had the 2013-2014 season when they won 21 games. 2014-2015 where they won 23 games. So, hey, trending in the right direction, right?
Right.
And then in the 2017-2018 season, they won 25. So again, I guess some good trends, if you want to call it that, right? The 2017-2018 season, they finished last overall, and they finished last in offense and second to last in defense. They got Rasmus Dahlin, right? So that's good out of 2018. The 2014-2015 season, they were dead last on offense. They were second worst on goals against. League worst penalty kill. Power play was horrible. That season, they lost 14 in a row between December and February, and they didn't even get a loser point during that 14 in a row streak. And their goal differential was a minus 113.
Right.
And they didn't win the draft lottery that year either. So not really even a consolation.
That was
yeah.
That was pretty rough.
Yeah. Jack Eichel, again, great player, but that was the year Connor McDavid came in. So, that's crazy. So, and then 2013, 2014, again, going back in time a little bit, but they were 2-12-1 in October, finished the season going 3-17-2 between March and April. They fired the coach and the GM by the middle of November. 6 players were minus 25. They had it was a revolving door in the net. They just weren't good. So I didn't really pick the worst specific team of a season, but I just look at Buffalo as being the worst franchise really of this past decade.
Those are two good, very good teams to pick.
Yeah.
So, all right, moving forward, sir.
All right.
Go ahead, your turn.
All right, so we want to go with best of the decade.
Oh, you want? Oh, okay. You want to continue with Mike? All right.
All right. Unless you've got something else you want to roll with.
I definitely want to touch on that also. So, if we go with the best, without even consulting or researching this, what would be probably the most memorable moment in hockey? It's one of the most memorable moments, and it's attached to one of the most successful teams of the decade. What stands out?
So there are 2 things that stand out to me in the decade.
Yeah.
The first one is the Pittsburgh Penguins winning back-to-back Stanley Cups in the Cap era. It's just this decade, and they did it pretty much with the same roster between the first win and the second. Mm-hmm. The other thing that sticks out to me is a bunch of misfits and a bunch of missteps by GMs who thought they were smarter than the system, which resulted in the Las Vegas Golden Knights making it to the Stanley Cup final by just winning and winning and winning when they weren't supposed to win anymore. So, for me,
that was my pick for the best team of the decade.
For me, it was kind of a toss-up between those two. Obviously, Vegas was a success story, and fans there were spoiled in the first year. And really, where do you go from there except having to win the Stanley Cup the next year, which is tough, and which brings me back to the Penguins winning the Stanley Cup back-to-back seasons.
Right.
So
I think for me, it's just ignoring the Penguins and just going with Vegas.
Okay, that's fair. You can do that.
No, I think the key to what you mentioned with the Penguins is obviously it's the same roster. You know, that's something you haven't seen in a long time. It's rare. Back to back. Definitely a solid showing by the Penguins. I understand where you're coming from on that. I think, although it's rare, I don't think anything like what Vegas did has ever happened in the history of hockey.
Well,
Correct me if I'm wrong. What?
for an expansion team,
That's what I'm
no.
saying. When's the
Yeah,
last time an expansion team went to the Stanley Cup Finals in its first year?
yeah.
Never.
Well, that's yeah,
So
yeah.
I think I understand what you're saying with the Penguins, and I think that's on its own merit. That's a huge accomplishment. But because this standalone feat by the Vegas Golden Knights happened in this decade, I'd have to go with that as being the team of the decade, especially with how the team was perceived for the entire season by the media. And the media did absolutely nothing to help them along until the second half of the season when the team kept proving everyone wrong, and then even going into the playoffs and one round after another kept proving, and it was a great thing to see a city just completely rally behind their team. It was great to see a city thrive behind a team when there were a lot of questions as to whether the city would be able to support a hockey team and this and that. And it was just it was just a great story. I mean, it's like, I don't know if they're ever thought about it. I'm sure they've talked about it, but I mean, it's a perfect storyline for a movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Vegas. There were a lot of questions about whether Vegas was going to be the Golden Knights were going to be successful there. The team did their part to help with getting over the shooting, in the same way
Yep.
that the Yankees did their part to help the city of New York kind of get over the World Trade Center bombings, and so there was definitely a connection there. One thing I do want to point out there too is the face of the Golden Knights was goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury,
Yeah.
who got rings and played a significant part in the Stanley Cup wins for the Penguins before he got picked up in the expansion draft. So, I'll give you the Vegas Golden Knights making it to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first season. However, I'm going to go ahead and stick with my guns and say that the best team of the decade for me was the Pittsburgh Penguins, and winning their back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2015, 2016, and 2016, 2017 with essentially the same roster. So,
Fair enough.
yeah.
I'm in it. I get it. I don't disagree with you. I think it's tough to just pick just one. I agree. But
Yeah.
I think because you understand what I'm saying, because
Yeah, no.
this
I
only going
think
to
it's a good
happen
pick.
once in the history of hockey. It's hard to ignore it. You gotta put it there.
Yeah, I mean, if we agreed on everything, it wouldn't be fun, right? Some other things there too. So the Blackhawks in this past decade got their third cup in 6 seasons. I mean, that's nothing to shy away from. Tampa Bay went 62, 16, and 4 in the regular season. Believe they tied the record for wins.
Right.
Got their first ever President's Trophy, an astounding plus 103 goal differential. I mean, that's insane. And that was like 40 goals over the second place goal differential team,
Right.
which is crazy. They then went into the playoffs and got swept in 4 games. So, I mean, maybe the best, maybe the worst. I don't know. That's kind of horrible. But, yeah, I mean, and the Capitals finally won. So, I mean, finally won the cup, I should say. So, it's a quick, quick recap. Certainly some very memorable moments for some teams that don't normally get that spotlight. I was very happy to see the Capitals win the Stanley Cup. I think they have been right there on the cusp for a number of years. But yeah, certainly better to focus on the good than the bad.
Yeah.
So,
moving forward, I definitely want to touch on a story that definitely flew under the radar with mainstream media, which is that just a few days ago, the U.S. men's national deaf ice hockey team defeated Canada to win the gold medal at the 19th Winter Deaf Olympics on December. It happened on December 21st, to be precise. This was a tournament that occurred in Valtellina, Valchiavenna, Italy. And the tournament was 9 days long, from the December 12th through the 21st. And there were a handful of countries from Canada, Finland, Kazakhstan, Russia, and the United States. United States pretty much defeated everyone in the round robin play except for Canada, where they lost 4-1. And then going into the at the end of the round robin series, going into a finals. Let me see, Scotty, we lost video on you.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
Keep going. I'm here.
Yeah. So in the end, the USA defeated Canada in the finals 7-3. So they got revenge for that early loss in the round robin segment, and they won gold. So great for them. It's a shame that something like this is not covered at all. I mean, prior to right this very moment, Scotty, what did you hear anything about this?
Not really, no. Especially considering that the event is organized by or sanctioned by the International Olympic Committee.
Yep. Yes, it is.
You would think that something like this would make bigger news, but yeah, definitely didn't hear it. I was interested when the story first came to my attention. I did a little bit of research, and this team started back in 1973 in Chicago, and basically started with Stan Mikita, the famous hockey player for the Chicago Blackhawks. He started a school, the Stan Mikita Hockey School for the Hearing Impaired. Mm-hmm. And the school is still doing its thing. They basically, this school for the United States, they field this team, that the U.S. Deaf Olympic hockey team. And it's composed mainly of members from the hockey school's varsity squad. And they've won 2 gold, 2 silver, and 2 bronze medals in the last 5 Deaf Olympic Games. Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing. And it just goes to show you, at least in my opinion, why hockey is the best sport, and the hockey players are the best athletes in the world, not just for their skill on the ice, but for what they do to promote the game, what they do to really expand the game's reach in areas that might not necessarily be considered as a place for hockey, especially in a situation like this.
Great story. Once again, congratulations to the U.S. men's team. And also congratulations to Canada for a strong showing. We hope to hear more successful stories from both of these teams going forward into the future. All right, Scotty, I'm going to hand it over to you. What do you have?
Yeah. So before we keep going, just want to remind folks that we're on Twitter and Facebook, Two Old Pucks. We've got a YouTube channel, Periscope, obviously. Have an email address, twooldpucks@gmail.com. So looking forward to comments here during the live broadcast, and certainly reach out and any of those venues if there's anything you want us to cover or any comments you might have. So yeah, just a couple things I want to touch on. So a little bit of drama, and I was a little upset at the fact we didn't have a broadcast on Christmas. Obviously, hanging with the family is much more important, but a little bit of drama. For Jeremy Roenick earlier this week. So Jeremy Roenick, of NHL player, and 20 seasons in the NHL. He's been an analyst for NBC Sports since 2010. So he went on a show called Spit and Chicklets and made some comments about about his coworkers, Catherine Tappan, Anson Carter, and Patrick Sharp. And basically, these comments were they were just not appropriate, especially knowing you're going to have to go back to work with these folks. The broadcast is free to get. So the idea that any of his comments wouldn't have made it back to them or to the general public is pretty ridiculous. But he alluded to some.
Let's
be a
little bit clear here about exactly what's going on. Is that, and to be clear, is that Jeremy Roenick is happily married to a very beautiful his beautiful wife, and both of them, both Jeremy Roenick and Mrs. Roenick, are very, very close with Jeremy's coworker, Catherine Tappan.
Sure. Yep.
They happen to vacation together.
Yep.
Jerry Roenick's wife happens to be very close with Catherine, and they do things together, separate of Jeremy. So they have their own little buddy system. Yep. And I think, to be clear here, because everyone is very close, that we're talking about behind closed doors, what the three of them would talk about if they went out to a movie, if they're sitting at dinner, or whatever it is that everyone enjoys each other's company and whatever other fun things they might discuss if they have a glass of wine in their hands and they're joking around with each other. And obviously that talk at some point in time turned sexual or whatever it might be, discussing what the possibilities of three people in the same room might tend to do. And that's something that is fine behind closed doors, personally in your own home, surrounded by people that you're very close and friendly with. But to take that outside of that room and share it with the public, especially when that third person is a coworker, puts Catherine in a very bad position.
Yeah, and let's be clear here too. What they talk about on their own is their own business, right? Like, that's okay. What ended up happening here was Roenick basically said a guest approached him, asked about, hey, who are the people that you're with? Who are those two women you're with? And what he said to the other resort guest at the time, this is the story he's telling us, I play it off like we're going to bed together every night, the three of us. And then he said, if it really came to fruition, that would be really good, but it's never going to happen, right? And so, again, you have to remember, these are a bunch of hockey players sitting around talking, a bunch of guys. But again, it puts Catherine Tappan in a very awkward position, especially because she has come out and said that, yeah, we're still friends. She said she and Roenick's wife are still friends, but that's inappropriate. And I agree. Roenick also made comments about Patrick Sharp, and said, basically said if Sharp propositioned him, he'd have to think about it. He wouldn't say no right away. Basically talked about his appearance. And then, he basically, he went on to compliment both. Said Catherine Tappan is one of the most professional sports personalities he knows. Sharp is one of the greatest guys on the planet. Think he's been great for NBC. The bottom line here is that, again, to your point, that kind of stuff has to stay. You can't put personal stuff like that out there when it involves other people. That puts him in an awkward position. And to make it worse, we're talking about somebody he would have had to go to work and sit at a desk, and now all the viewers are looking at it like, oh, Jeremy, so are you and Catherine gonna get together? I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And that's really, it's really about embarrassing Catherine Tappan.
It is, and really I think she handled it very professionally, but at the same time, I think from her press release that officially addressed the situation, and she only released one statement that addressed it, where she said she doesn't condone the remarks, but she didn't say anything negative about Jeremy. Right. All she did was say, I look forward to a continued professional relationship, and she kept it very down the middle.
Yep.
and said, I don't condone this, but she never said, I think she did say we're going to continue to be, close
Yep.
friends, both him and his
Absolutely.
wife.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where I think behind closed doors, and it's, we have a photo on the screen courtesy to the New York Post, of Catherine Tappan with Jeremy Roenick in the background. But I think it's one of those things where in the background, Catherine probably said to Jeremy, when the word of this first leaked, where she probably said to him, Jeremy, what the freak were you thinking?
Yeah.
Probably gave him a punch on the shoulder, and kind
Or
of he probably kind of
his
looked at her
wife
and
gave it to
laughed,
him
and
too.
she probably
Yeah.
laughed back and said, "Holy cow, what
Yep.
the heck were you thinking?"
Yep.
And then they probably together figured out a way of addressing it. So I got the sense based on her public statement that she wasn't too offended by him because she knows him. You get that sense that she was kind of maybe protecting him, but she absolutely did the right thing in representing the NHL Network and representing her career in saying that she doesn't condone this talk and it's not whatever. So I think she did the right thing, and I think the network did the right thing in removing him from the air. So everybody did the right thing to address the situation.
Yep. And again, it just goes to show that if you're a public personality, especially on a show like that, where you're being interviewed and then having to go on national TV with a network that certainly prides itself, at least on those types of broadcasts being clean and family friendly, that you just have to kind of watch what you say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think everybody, all parties concerned, did the right thing. I just think it's interesting in today's day and age how older people, what does say older people, not necessarily older guys, but older people who have a locker room mentality, who when they get together with other athletes who are in the locker room and they kind of sink back into talking about just stuff you'd talk about,
Right.
and kind of get relaxed, and stuff like that comes out. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, just wanted to touch on that, since that was a bit of juicy news that
It
that
was
came out
yeah, that
earlier
was
this
very
week.
juicy.
Yeah. So yeah, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, I want to focus on a couple teams here that I think are just not in a good spot. So first, we'll start off with the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay.
So Buffalo reported that they will be without Jeff Skinner, the $72 million man, for 3 to 4 weeks with an upper body injury. They lost him on Friday night when they lost to Boston. He again, like I said, $72 million contract so that he wouldn't hit the free agent market. He only had 11 goals, 19 points in 39 games,
Right.
Which I'm not sure that that's worth $72 million, at least the first season. But at any rate, he was a big free agent signing for them, a big part of their plans. Buffalo, they're 9-14-6 in 29 games since they started off 8-1-1. Detroit is the only team in the NHL with a worse winning percentage. They still are in the hunt for a playoff spot because the Atlantic Division just sucks. But they're also 1 point ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have the offensive firepower, who have goaltending, and they also have several games in hand.
Right.
So they've gone 8 years without being in the playoffs. I got to tell you, I don't know how they're going to turn it around, especially without Jeff Skinner. But last year they had the best record in the league by the end of November, winning 10 games in a row. Fans went nuts. Same thing with that 8-1-1 streak that they had this year. And then last year they missed the playoffs by 22 points. So
Yeah, I mean, I have the Buffalo Sabres lines up on the screen right now, and as you can see, what that top line now looks like with Olofsson on the left, Eichel in the center, and Kyle Okposo has been promoted from the fourth line to the top line right wing. It's not an unfamiliar position for him. It's just been a few years since he's been there in that spot. piggybacking Tavares with the Islanders, but definitely someone who's a little bit more senior, might be a little bit more comfortable with that. As much as I'd love to see Sam Reinhart play with Jack Eichel, I can see their dilemma being short some players here, and their top three lines look, well, yeah. I mean, all
Pedestrian.
the lines just look really thin.
Yeah, the pedestrian is the best way to put it. Yeah.
They're looking really thin.
Yep.
So it's a shame. They had a little thing going on there, and now everything that kind of backboned their initial push in the season is kind of, they've been undermined a little bit. But crazy.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Yep.
For all those people who are doing fantasy hockey, I could see picking up Okposo. He was probably available. I would probably say in 90% of the fantasy leagues out there. So I'm sure he had a very high availability with all the leagues, and for him to be winging on Eichel, definitely someone to consider to pick up.
Yep. So really don't need to spend any more time talking about Buffalo. I think
onward and upward, sir. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Absolutely. All right. So the next team I want to hit on is the San Jose Sharks.
Mm-hmm.
So San Jose, they were in the finals a couple years ago, and they just been on a downward spiral. They lost Friday to the Kings, and Coach Bob Buchner said after the game, wondered how you could dress 12 players when only 8 or 9 showed up. He just, absolutely was not happy. 2 players, Timo Meyer and Kevin LeBlanc, were benched for almost half the third period. They at the time on Friday, they were 1-8-2 in the last 11 games. As of right now, in their last 10, they are 2-7-1. And they just are not. Their schedule just doesn't look good. So they won, I believe, Saturday against the Philadelphia Flyers, 6-1. So good for them. But they their schedule coming up. They're playing Pittsburgh, the Capitals, St. Louis. Columbus is in there. You never know what you're going to get with Columbus, but Dallas, Arizona, Colorado, Vancouver. I mean, their schedule over the next 23 games, they are, what was that? 8 and sorry, I had these stats down. So it was including yesterday's game Saturday's game, they were 8 games at home, 16 on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, and their salary cap, their salary structure is horrible. They're stuck with huge contracts. Erik Karlsson, 29 years old, he signed through 2026 to 2027 at $11.5 million annual. Brent Burns is 34. He's $8 million through 24-25. Mark-Edward Vlasic is 32 years old, $7 million a year, and he goes out to 25-26.
Yeah.
Then you got Logan Couture at 30 and Evander Kane at 28.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you pick up a player like Karlsson, like you just mentioned, for 11, what was it, 11 point what?
11.5 million average.
Right. You would think that you're doing that because you're looking. I mean, you have guys. Listen, you got Marleau, you got Thornton, you got Couture. You got guys that have been playing for a while. You're looking at some point. You're looking to build a core of younger players, and you're looking toward the future, right? When you make a signing like that with Karlsson, and you invest that much in one player, you're doing so, I would think, not as much thinking that one player is going to change your team, but because he's going to be a great person to build around, right? Is the mentality that he's going to bring that much to the team that you currently have? Because if I was San Jose
Yeah.
looking at my lines right now, and I have the lines up on the screen, I'd rather bring Carlson in and start trading away guys like, I mean, Marlowe, Hurdle. You want to keep? He's young. He's got potential. Kane, okay. Couture, Thornton. You get into a little bit of that retirement home feel.
Yeah.
You got this. Deep. I don't want to say deep, but I don't even know how to explain their defense. I mean, Brent Burns and Carlson are it, but Carlson doesn't have the spark. It's almost like I feel like he's got no one to kind of put the puck home. You got to remember, Carlson. The reason why Carlson is worth $11.5 million is because he was driving home like 70 something assists in a season. Like 70. Think about that. He'd have like 20 goals and like 70 assists. Okay? That means that he's throwing a heck of a lot of pucks at the net from the point during power plays, 5-on-5s, and then he has people in front of the net putting the puck home for him, right? So, or people getting deflections, whatever it might be. But if he doesn't have that support of those forwards, then what is you can only count on so many goals from a defenseman,
Well,
right?
so
Where
really
is that going to come from? You're not
yeah.
going to get that support from Barclay Goodrow or Kevin LeBanc or Sorensen or Nosen or Melker Carl. I mean, too many guys don't crash the net for that team.
So really what you have when you sign a guy like that, one, you have to pay him to get him, right? I mean, that's just basically how that works. But when you sign players like that age at that dollar amount, you're basically paying them for now. You're not paying them for 5 years from now. You're really trying to pick up short-term wins, and you're going to have to figure out and get you're going to have to get creative with the salary cap, maybe some trades, some things like that, hoping guys will retire. That's essentially what. But
let's go back a little bit. I hear what you're saying, but let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to when San Jose, and this is a good team to talk about. When San Jose took on Carlson, okay, their roster didn't look very much different than where it is right now, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what were they thinking? Did they think that they already had the talent to go to that next level, and that's why they invested with Carlson? Or it's either one of two options, or they didn't, and they said, "This is our first step in rebuilding. We're going to rebuild and make him our centerpiece."
I mean,
which way are they going? And back then, I cannot believe that they thought that they had something, and they thought he was going to put them over the top with the rosters that they already had.
Well, we can sit here and kind of, hindsight 2020, we can armchair GM, but yeah, I mean, the Sharks are not that far removed from the Stanley Cup Finals, and they've been perennial playoff team for years, right? So if you think about it, in the playoffs, defense is really where it starts, right? Because the game plan for most teams is dump the puck and attack the defense, cycle down low. And that's why teams traditionally will add a few defensemen, whether it's Black Aces coming up or they make a couple trades to have a few defensemen in the event of injury to be able to cycle guys through. So again, you have Erik Karlsson, who's been known as a puck-moving defenseman. As you said, he's an assist machine. That's basically been his bread and butter. So when you're trying to get faster, which is what San Jose was trying to do, was build off the back end with speed, getting the puck up out of the zone, get a good puck-moving defenseman.
And Karlsson's good at that.
He is very good at that. So that drives offense. And so when you're a GM and you take a look at and you have the opportunity to bring a guy like Erik Karlsson in on your roster, and you think, okay, I've got a window, I've got some players that I can build with, or not build, I shouldn't say build. I've got some players that I can potentially win with. I don't want to say an X factor, but I need something that's going to be in there that's more than just Brent Burns. You sign the guy, you pay him, and then you hope that you're going to make it in the next year or two before he, gets too old or too broken. Unfortunately, Karlsson just didn't work out, and he's just not lived up to what they thought he was going to do this season. Now, again, think about this though. He's got 4 goals and 24 assists in 39 games. I mean, so it's not like he's not driving the offense.
No, I didn't say he wasn't.
Yeah, no, but I'm just so it's not a no. I'm not saying that you did say that.
Right.
I guess what I'm saying is that yeah, they're not, the team overall isn't doing well. But I don't know that he's worth 11 million a year putting up those numbers, but hey, it's he's logging 24, 25 minutes a night. It was a gamble.
I guess maybe it's the mentality of the team and of the decision isn't clear to me. I'm not, obviously I don't have access to the San Jose local press. I haven't been able to follow up that much with it. And because that's something that, you start to get a feel for the mentality after you get little bits of news from different interviews over a period of time. You'll hear the GM say this, you'll hear the head coach say that, you'll hear a player say this, and all of a sudden you take the pieces and you put them together, and then you start to slowly figure out, okay, I'm starting to get what they're saying here or what they're trying to do. Because they won't just come out and flat out say it. It's very rare that a team will just come out and say, this is what we're going to do and this is who we're going to do it with and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not that close, obviously, and neither are you, to the San Jose press, so we can't really piece it together the way we like to. But it's hard to... Sometimes you can be, just from being a fan of a sport and being just watching it for years, you can start to guess, okay, this makes sense. We're going to take this guy out. We're going to trade him. We're going to bring this guy in. And you can take a step back and be like, okay, that makes sense. I can see where we're going, and we need that, and that's why we did that. Obviously, any team could use an Erik Karlsson. But when you have guys on your roster that can't support him the way he needs to be supported, you got to remember, he was coming from a dynamic team. And dynamic on the end of, from the side of that, he was surrounded by a lot of young guys, right? So you had guys like, Bobby Ryan, right? You had Matt Stone, right? You had Zibanejad, right? You had, oh God, what's his name? The one that his wife and his, the other guy's girlfriend, Hoffman. You had Hoffman.
Yeah, Mike
right?
Hoffman, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you had a lot of young, dynamic players that really were good, just good, solid guys he was surrounded by. And they were able to make him look good. He was able to make them look good. It was a good comment. And that's why they went to the finals, right?
Well, they also had Craig Anderson, stand on his head. Craig Anderson had a lot to do with that.
You could say goalie stands on the head, but you can't stand on your head for all those games that get you into the playoffs and then through every playoff series. No goalie can stand on their head. The credit has to go to the team at some point.
Not arguing. Come on. Yeah.
So I think overall he had all the support. I don't it was a well-balanced team.
I don't give Ottawa any credit for that. And I say that because that organization is a dumpster fire. The owner is a garbage owner who should be forced to sell the team. So yeah, I mean,
but that doesn't take away that the talent. That doesn't dismiss the fact that the talent on the ice exceeded the talent that was in the administrative aspect of things.
They played way above. They punched way above their weight. I mean,
and good for them for doing that.
Yeah, I just think it had expectations were way too high for what they had. Because to be honest with you, those players that you rattled off, a lot of them were past their prime when they got there. So, at any rate, I just kind of want to, because I do want to get to one more team. I do want to talk about another team. But I just think San Jose, they're not in a good spot, and tanking isn't going to do them any good because the last thing, because the Senators own the Sharks' 2020 first round draft pick.
Right.
So I mean, there isn't even even finishing, horribly in the standings isn't going to do them any good. It'll just get Ottawa a higher draft pick. So, all right, last team I want to touch on is the Edmonton Oilers. So teams come back from the holiday stand down. A bunch of teams play on Friday. So the Oilers play Calgary. The Oilers were at home,
Right.
and they lost 5-1.
Right.
And Calgary scored 11 seconds into the first period. They scored 68 seconds into the second period and scored 57 seconds into the third. And you want to talk about a team with a mindset that just isn't there. I don't know. I don't have a way to explain it other than culture there is just, it's just not good. And it doesn't matter that you have McDavid and Draisaitl. The best power play in the NHL isn't going to win you games when your goaltending stinks. When the attitude on the ice is just, I mean, the team is so fragile. You can see it on the bench. Guys' heads are down. It's just not.
Well, when you're strung up the middle and you don't have any wings, I mean, come on. I mean,
it's 13 years, and they've had one playoff appearance. I mean, it's just Draisaitl, is now on 16 games of minus nights. He's a minus 25 in his last 16 games. That's Draisaitl, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you do here with this team. But to have Connor McDavid, who is probably the best offensive player in the NHL right now, they've lost 11 of 15. I mean, they got to get the guy out of Edmonton. His agent has got to be pulling his hair out. McDavid has got to be pulling his hair out. I just don't know. I mean, it's just crazy what's going on with this team. They've won 4 of their last 15 home games, 2 of their last 10. It's such a proud franchise to continue to see this product on the ice. I mean, it's just I don't know what they're going to be able to do to turn it around. And they're constantly getting high draft picks. I don't know.
It's a mismanaged team. It leads back to one thing. They're just being managed poorly.
Yeah.
For it to be, you know what, you could say someone makes a bad decision here and there. That's fine. Everyone's allowed to make a mistake. But when it extends for years and years and years, owners, management, can you blame coaching? Nah, I would say owners and management. So a manager making bad decisions, but then the owner enabling the manager to continue making bad decisions.
Yeah.
So obviously you got, silent owners and just bad management.
And for a team, this isn't Toronto, it's not Montreal, it's Edmonton. And, but Edmonton is there's a lot of history there. And the problem with Edmonton is they're incestuous and they go out and they hire names from the past, ghosts from the past. But I mean, they've had 3 different head coaches in the last couple of years with Todd McClellan, Ken Hitchcock, and now Dave Tippett. So here's another statistic here. Over the span of their 2-6-2 record, out of their last 10, they had 2 1-goal wins, while all 6 regulation losses were by 3 goals or more.
Right.
23 goals for, 42 goals against in those 10 games.
Right.
And they were all on home ice. I mean, I just don't know what you do here. I got nothing, but I just thought it was, I don't like to point out the bad part of the game, but the worst part here too is that despite going 2-7-1 in their last 10, they are now they're still in the hunt for a wild card spot.
Yeah.
I mean, in Calgary, which is in third in the excuse me, hold on a second here. Let me take a look at what we got. So yeah, they're not that far out. Edmonton has 44 points, and Dallas, that's fourth in the West, has 46. So they still could make. I just don't see them. I just continue to see them falling.
Yeah.
At one point in time, they had a positive goal differential. Now they're at -11. I mean, you can only fire so many head coaches before you got to start doing something a little different. So.
All right, so I think we need to start winding down here.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is with some of the scores for the since there's only one game tomorrow, Monday, December 30th, we'll go through. Might as well just finish up the rest of the year for the 30th and the 31st. Okay. So we'll do it really quick.
All right.
We'll keep it short. So for tomorrow, Monday, December 30th, we have the Senators at the Penguins.
Penguins are going to win. So Jari's going to be back between the pipes. Number one goaltender in the league right now. I don't think that Ottawa's going to give too much of a problem.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Penguins at home for sure. Moving forward to New Year's Eve, Tuesday, December 31st, we have Bruins at the Devils.
Boston's going to take that one.
For some reason, I'm just going to go with an upset.
Okay.
The Bruins had a little hiccup recently. They showed a little chink in the armor. Devils are at home. I'm just going to go with a little upset for whatever reason. Islanders at Capitals.
I'm going to go with
divisional. Listen, this is a divisional thing, a battle that could affect the first place of the Metro Division. This is the number 1 and number 2 team, and also a clash of probably 2 of the top teams in the entire league. So, Islanders have been really shaky lately. Capitals continue to look strong. Capitals are at home. What's your take?
I'm going to go. So what's interesting, Washington actually has a better record away than they do at home, but I'm going to go with the Caps taking this one.
The Caps are extremely hard to beat at home. However, the Islanders have shown a tendency this season for beating the hard teams and losing to the easy teams. And what I mean by they beat the teams that are ranked very high in the league, and some of their more recent losses have been teams that are last place in their division. So lost to Chicago, they lost to the Ducks. This is the exact type of game that the Islanders get completely fired up for, and where they play their absolute best. So it's going to be. I'm going to go with the Islanders.
All right.
I'm going to say the Islanders beat the Capitals at home in Washington. So I'll go there. Ducks at the Golden Knights.
I think Vegas is going to take this one.
I'm going to, although the Ducks have been playing pretty well lately, I'll go with Golden Knights on this one. Okay. Maple Leafs at the Wild.
I'm going to go with the Wild.
I'm going to go with the Wild also.
Okay.
Lightning at the Sabres.
Lightning.
Yep, same here. Canadians at the Hurricanes.
Carolina.
I'm going to go with Canadians on this one.
Okay.
I think it's another upset right there. Panthers at the Blue Jackets.
Man, so if anybody gets a chance to check it out, they should definitely take a look at Tortorella's press conference, one of his more energetic ones.
Yeah.
he ripped into the refs, ripped into some other people, and then just walked out. So
Right.
he's definitely mad. I think the team's going to be a little upset. I'm going to go ahead and go Columbus on that one.
All right. I think, I think Tortorella's going to explode, and the Panthers are still going to win. You're just going to see bloodstains everywhere, like behind the glass. You're just going to.
Could be.
His head is finally going to pop.
Yep.
Sharks at the Red Wings.
Man, battle of basement dwellers here.
Well, nothing is. I mean, you got the basement, and then you got 6 feet under.
That's true. That's true. I'm gonna go. We'll go with Detroit. We'll see what Detroit can do.
You think they're gonna get out of the single-digit win column?
I'm gonna for New Year's resolution, right? And end the year on a positive note.
And then the amazing team we were just speaking about earlier, the Sharks. I'm still going to take the Sharks on this one.
Fair enough.
All right, Jets at Avalanche. Good game. Good game.
Yeah, I think Colorado's going to take this one again. They're just they're consistent. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Colorado.
I think it's going to be a close one, but I'm also going to go with Colorado. I think it's going to be like an overtime game.
All right,
but I'll go with that. Flyers at the Kings.
Philly. I think Philly's going to take it. Philly's been doing pretty well of late.
Yep.
They've been climbing the standings. They put some wins together. They're 5-5-0 in their last 10, but they've definitely shown signs that they're putting some good games together.
Blackhawks at the Flames. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to go with the Flyers also. Blackhawks at the Flames.
Man, Chicago has just been wanting to play spoiler, but I'm gonna go with Calgary. I'm gonna go with Calgary on that one.
Yeah, I think the Blackhawks. They definitely took advantage of Grice having an off night the other night with the Islanders, but that was at home. This is away, and Calgary is in a close road trip. That's definitely a good distance. I'm going to go with the Flames on this one at home for sure.
All right.
Rangers at the Oilers.
Well, we just spent a whole bunch of time tearing the Oilers apart. The Rangers at the Oilers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a tough one. I think New York will pull it out. I think New York's going to take that one.
I think so also. Yep. Blues at the Coyotes.
It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a really good game.
Interesting.
St. Louis 8-2-0 in their last 10.
Yeah.
So that's a juggernaut right there. And they're playing at Arizona. Arizona is 8-9-1 at home. They're 4-6-0. But I don't know. I saw some signs, so I think Arizona has a chance here. I'm going to go with the underdog here.
You're going to go with I think that might be another upset right there.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. I think they'll be up for that one. Very good.
Yep. And then, so we didn't really talk about it, and we really can make the call now. But obviously, Wednesday there's one game, New Year's Day.
Yes.
A game that really I don't care about, despite the fact that it's outdoors. Nashville and Dallas.
Yep. Nashville at Dallas. Yep.
Yeah. Man, I don't know.
It's a 2 p.m. game, Eastern time.
Yeah. I think it's I'd be willing to bet it's going to get moved to later on in the evening based on the weather, but I think Dallas is going to win.
Yeah, I'll go with Dallas on that one.
Yeah. So, what I was going to say though is we hadn't decided, we hadn't talked about whether or not we're going to do a broadcast that night. What do you think?
New Year's Day. I think with the holidays here, we're kind of going through this for the first time. I think the decision we make now should carry through for years to come. So,
whoa, woo.
Because I'm sure this is just going to carry through for we got decades ahead of us. So we want to make sure that we condition the audience of 2 people now. But I think on that day, we probably want to skip that one. What do you think?
I'm good. I mean, I think by that time the holiday's over. Whatever hangovers people have
You'll be
are.
sobered up.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
All right.
there's gonna be a lot
So,
of
like
stuff
I
to
said,
cover.
we'll have a broadcast that evening, Wednesday,
Yeah,
January 1st at 9 p.m.
yeah. So welcome. I want to welcome everybody back. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family, tell people you don't like, and trick them into watching if you want to.
Excellent.
So yeah, and just remember we're out there on social media: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Two old pucks. Tooldpucks@gmail.com. Obviously here on Periscope. Like, follow, and read religiously. And we'll keep you up to date on what's going on.
Excellent. The main, I would say, our main social media feed is the Twitter account. There's a very steady steady stream of content on the Twitter at 2LPucks. So please check it out. And feel free to message us, say hi. And that's it. Hope everyone has a very safe holiday. Happy New Year's. And Scotty, to you, Happy New Year.
Yeah.
A happy, healthy, and a safe one.
Yeah. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. And yeah, be safe, everybody. Have a plan before you go out, and enjoy the games over the next couple of days.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.